Please join me in welcoming Dr. Katherine Milkman.
I'm really excited to be here with you today and hope that I have some fun things to share. We went back past my title slide quickly. So I'm going to tell you about ways to improve your decision making, and I want to start with an exercise because I realize it's kind of early in the morning and it's important to wake up by doing something. So the exercise is a focusing challenge, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys to watch a video that's deliberately low quality. The video I'm going to show you is actually two videos that have been spliced together, and each one is a low-quality film of a basketball team passing a ball back and forth. One team is wearing white t-shirts, and one team is wearing black t-shirts. So your challenge is actually to focus on the team wearing white t-shirts and count the number of passes that are successfully completed between members of that team. So let me be really specific so you guys won't say I was tricking you when this ends if you didn't get the right answer. So to count as a pass, the ball needs to leave the hands of one of the players in a white t-shirt and be caught by another player. So if it stops midair, that does not count. Hopefully we've got that. So I'm going to cue the video, and you guys, your job, count. All right, go. All right, how many passes did you count? Yell out your answer. 9, 10, okay. I heard a few 10s. 10 is the right answer, so pat yourself on the back if you nailed that. Okay, now I'm gonna ask for a show of hands. How many of you noticed a woman walking across the basketball court with an open umbrella in the middle of the video if you hadn't seen this before? All right, I'm going to say that's about 10% of the audience. For the other 90% who missed that, I'm going to show this video one more time, and this time don't focus on counting the number of basketballs passed. Instead, just look for the woman with an open umbrella. I'm going to cue the video. Go ahead. There she goes. All right, so why did I show you this film clip? I'm showing it to you because it's a wonderful illustration of a limitation in the way that people make decisions. What this illustrates is something called a focusing illusion. We tend to ignore or miss information going on in the periphery when we're focused on one thing. And it's not true only in the visual domain, that if I'm focused on counting, for instance, I'm going to miss something happening in the periphery. It's true of regular decisions in daily life as well. If you're really focused on hitting a certain goal at work, for instance, you may miss relevant, important information that's going on in the periphery that you think of as not central to whatever decision you're working towards. So this is an important limitation of the way humans make decisions that it can be valuable to be aware of. All right, let's play another game or do another exercise. This one's going to require you guys to actually write something down. So if you have a piece of paper handy or an iPhone where you can pull up the notes function, what I'm going to ask you to do is just take a couple of minutes to write down 90% confidence intervals for 10 quantities. What is a 90% confidence interval? So a 90% confidence interval is going to encompass the right answer 90% of the time. So if I were to ask you, how far away is the moon, instead of the diameter, which is one of these questions, you would know for sure that it's not 2 miles away. And you'd also know that it's not 500 light years away. So your confidence interval, though, and it's not an infinite distance away, your 100% confidence interval would be 0 to infinity. And then your 90%, you'd narrow it, and you'd say it's within bounds where 9 out of 10 times I'm confident the right answer lies within here. So what I want you to do is write a 90% confidence interval down for each of these 10 quantities. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to do that. So take a couple of minutes to do this exercise, and then we'll share the answers and talk about it a little bit. All right, 10-second warning. Try to jot down your last couple confidence intervals. All right, I'm going to show you the answers, and I'm going to ask you to self-grade. These are the correct answers to these questions. So count up how many of these answers fell within your 90% confidence interval. If you're perfectly calibrated, it should be 9 out of 10. All right, how many people had 10 out of 10 within their 90% confidence interval? Show of hands. I see 0 hands in the audience with 10 out of 10. That's all right. How about 9 out of 10? 10 out of 10 would have been underconfident. Any 9 out of 10s? Anyone perfectly calibrated? Okay, how about 8 out of 10? Do I see any 8 out of 10s? 7 out of 10? 6? How about a 5? 4? Okay, I'm starting to see some more hands. 3 out of 10? Okay, 3 out of 10 is a popular one. 2 out of 10? 1 out of 10? 0 out of 10? All right, so the distribution was mostly between 0 and 4. That's where I saw most of the hands. First of all, let me just give you some good news, which is that there's nothing wrong with you in that you're typical. This is the way humans make these kinds of judgments. So we tend to be wildly overconfident about the precision of information we have. So the fact that you guys were between 0 and 4 is not great news in terms of how well calibrated you are, but it's also not bad news in terms of how you fit into the general population. This is typical. What it illustrates is another limitation in the way people make decisions. And that limitation is that we tend to be overconfident about how good our information is or how precise our knowledge is. And this can lead us to make mistakes. Let me show you one important implication of this in a video. So cue this video. I know, no matter how many times I watch this, it still makes me sad. Right, so when we feel like our information is more precise than it actually is, it can have all sorts of consequences. And this is just an illustration of one. Okay, so both of the exercises I had you guys just do were really to illustrate a simple point, which is while the human brain is amazing, it's not as amazing as what we see illustrated in the popular character on Star Trek, Spock, right? Mr. Spock is a human decision maker who never makes errors. He's a perfect number crunching machine, and that's not actually representative of the way people make choices. On the other hand, right, we don't make mistakes at every turn. So Homer Simpson's another popular television character, and he does everything wrong. We are not that bad at making decisions either. So that's an inaccurate representation too. The right way to think about the way people make decisions is kind of in the middle. So Brad Pitt, I think of as a fairly reasonable guy. He makes a lot of reasonable decisions, but he makes the occasional and predictable mistake. And here's one particularly odd choice. I don't like the facial hair he chose on this day, right? So this is an example of a real decision maker. And economic theory, which is the basis of most policy decisions, goes with the Spock model. What we're increasingly learning is that we need to have more of a model of humanity as a little bit more like Brad Pitt. That we're pretty good at making decisions, but there are systematic ways that we make errors, and if we can understand those, then we can help people make far better choices. In fact, it's kind of neat that I'm speaking to you guys today because a Nobel Prize was awarded just a few weeks ago for behavioral economics, which is the field that I'm a part of and that's trying to understand these imperfections in our choices. So it's a good moment for us right now. And the idea I want to share with you today for how you can take the insights from this field and make use of them immediately relies on a framework called choice architecture. The idea here is actually that every time we make a decision, the environment where we're making it, whether we realize it or not, is somehow shaping our choices. So you can think about it as a physical environment, or you can think about it as an online environment, right? So that's an environment too that might shape our choices, the way choices are presented to us, even in something like an email or on a website. That is going to actually influence the decisions we make in predictable ways. So let me talk a little bit about what I mean by choice architecture so this concept will become clear. Everybody in this